Surun Miritam Yana Tashmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yana Bhutare Sayam Rupa Karamayam Dharati Swapanantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Siyata Parakamanam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sadevam Sadvaitam Sabhadutam Parijana Sayitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shrivishakan Vitam Sta Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinu Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Jayatam Shurito Pango Mama Maner Mater Gati Matsarvasha Parambo Radhana Madana Mohanam Sriman Rasa Rasaram Vamsya Karsan Benu Shunuka Gopinata Sri Siram Divyadvindaranikampadrumada Srimad Ratnagara Shimasanasto Shri Sri Radha Shri Govinda Prasadabhi Sevamano Shmarami Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Taya Chaji Karitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Mangalam Bhagavan Vishnu Mangalam Girirajam Mangalam Panire Kaksho Mangarayatanohi Om Narayanaya Vidmahi Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tano Vishnu Pachodiyate Om Mahadevi Cha Vidmahi Vishnu Padni Cha Dhimahi Tano Lakshmi Prachodiyate Mahalakshmi Namastubhyam Sare Sare Hari Priya Namastubhyam Dhyadare Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vindavaneshwari Rishabhana Sute Devi Pranamani Hari Priya Subham Karoti Kalyaram Haragam Dana Sambharam Satam Puri Vanasana Deepa Jyoti Namostute Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pasaya Bhutare Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachari Nirvishes Sunivadi Paskara Desan Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sri Gaur Bhaktivindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Thanks for joining Rob on Zoom. And so far on Facebook, we have Brent, the poet, Govinda Dev, the advocate and Kirtania, and Carmen, the poetess, as well as Natasha, the AI poetess. So we've got a talented crew on board as today's ship launches from the dock and we enter into the seas of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th canto, 3rd chapter, the 28 prayers that Gajendra tendered to the Lord while offering the lotus flower aloof. And we've just been joined by Bobby, who gives 6 eyes as emojis. Her surgery went well. I think this is the 2nd day after the surgery, and everything is looking good, literally. She's looking good. Get it? Okay. We're stressing the point of single-minded devotion. You can't do Krishna and do something else. Love God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind. The symptom of someone who's on the progressive devotional path is that they see Krishna in everything. They see Krishna in everything. Akura, I quoted Akura the other day that when Krishna saw Akura, and Krishna asked Akura, what would you like? What would you like? And Akura said, well, what else? I mean, there isn't anything to ask for. I'm seeing you, and you are at one and the same time. You're the source of creation, and you're more than the creation. It's principle. It's an unarguable principle that which is creates is always going to be more than the creation. It can be said of Krishna, you are the creation, but you're also much more than the creation itself. But when Akura is looking at the original form of Krishna, Aham Sarvasya Paravo Matasaram Iti Madhva Buddhava, I am the source of all material and spiritual worlds. The wise who know this worship me with all of their hearts. Akura is face to face with the singularity from which everything comes, with the absolute truth, full of beauty, wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. And he can't see the point to asking Krishna for something, because he's in Krishna is not only everything that there is to be desired within the material and spiritual world, but there is more. Yan Marta Lila Payakam Shoyakam Maya Balam Darshan Rikaram Shukambaram Vishwanam Param Param Bhushana Bhushanaram. The form of Krishna is so super excellent that when Krishna advented himself in his two-handed form 5,300 years ago, even Lord Vishnu himself, Mahavishnu, who lies down in the causal ocean and from whose pores and breathing come all the material universes, originally like little golden eggs, and expand to become this created cosmos. That Vishnu is the source of all the material universes. He craved to see the two-armed form of Krishna. He engaged in an elaborate conspiracy which involved the abduction of the sons of Krishna's Gurukul teacher, held them at his planet, held them captive until such time as Krishna, according to the promise at the end of his education, the guru doesn't take a salary, but the guru has a right to ask of some favor from the student at the time of graduation. Then this request must be honored. It's a cultural principle that if someone shares their knowledge and enriches you with what they know in science, philosophy, literature, poetry, martial arts, yoga, whatever it is, it's civilized behavior and it's practical to reciprocate. We have yoga classes Monday through Thursday, and they're donation-based. We put a little table. People come in the door. They have to bypass this table. They actually have to slide to the left or slide to the right. There's this big table with a big sign. It says donation-based yoga, please give. Some of our attendees are really expert at pretending they don't see. It's right in the middle of the entrance. If you were to walk straight in, you'd literally trip, go head over heels over this table. So you have to deviate your course significantly in order to avoid and go around the table. And it's just so amusing to sit there at the counter. And you're also sitting there as a witness. Some people, it doesn't bother them at all. They just breeze right through, right before your eyes. Pretend they don't notice the table with a little donation, a little Venmo, and just go upstairs with the yoga. It's so funny. They do anything to get something for nothing. They don't buy into, they don't subscribe to the give and take. The idea of dakshina, giving a donation, fulfilling a boon, which might be requested by your teacher or your mentor. In the proper Vedic culture, this must be honored. It must be observed. There are stories of disciples upon graduation from the Gurukul that have risked their lives, that have traveled even to other planets in order to fulfill the requests of their gurus. The Mahabharata, in fact, starts with this story. It seems unrelated to the rest of the narrative, which is, as we might have mentioned before, the Mahabharata is 10 times longer than the Odyssey combined. And it has principally to do with the relationship between the cousin brothers, the Kauravas and the Pandavas. It also incorporates a lot of lore from thousands of years history. When the Pandavas are in exile, they spend a lot of time listening to the sages in their forest ashram, and in this way become aware of the entire tapestry of history, which has led throughout the ages down to the Kurukshetra war. But interesting enough, the Mahabharata starts with this story, which just doesn't seem to have any connection with anything that follows. It's a story of Uttanka, and Uttanka graduated from the school of his spiritual master, and his spiritual master asked him to get the earrings of the king of heaven's wife, Sachi, for his wife. And it goes on and on. It's like 100 pages, how Uttanka manages to get the earrings, and he gets the earrings. I think he does something amazing for Indra, and Indra voluntarily gives his wife's earrings to Uttanka. But then on his way back to the ashram of spiritual master, he stops for a moment, puts the earrings down, and then a snake comes out of a hole, grabs the earrings, and this Naga, this king of snakes, takes the earrings to a subterranean place as a gift for his wife. And it's all twists and turns and convoluted. And you know, if you know what the story of the Mahabharata is about, you were wondering, like, what has this got to do? And when you think about it a little more deeply, you realize it is absolutely essential. The first story has to do with honoring the debt, the obligation that you have to your teacher. If you decide, based on study and examination and inquiries, that it's worth your time to go to this teacher, to learn from them, whatever it is, graphic arts, chemistry, science, martial arts, or whatever. If in the first place, this teacher is a person worthy of studentship, then you need to be prepared at the time that you've learned what you wanted to learn, you've gleaned what you wanted, you need to be prepared to reciprocate, to give back by honoring the request of the teacher, no matter what it might be. And those who take and don't give are called kripanas. They're just miserly person. Ultimately, whether that knowledge, the seed which the guru has planted and cultivated in you, ultimately, whether that germinates, blossoms, blooms, produces a result, does not necessarily depend on the time spent in the class. It does not necessarily depend on the instruction. Ultimately, whether one is successful depends on the teacher himself. If the teacher is pleased, then the knowledge will flourish and prosper in the heart of that student. But if the teacher is displeased, nothing will ever evolve, nothing will ever grow. So it's an incomplete process to learn, even if it should extend itself over years and years of time. And even if one should be a conscientious, diligent student, doing all of one's homework, learning the lessons, passing the tests, should that student fail to honor the request of the teacher at the end of the instruction, none of what has been taught will come to fruition. It will have been a waste of time for that student because the teacher will not have been pleased. And that's why Yasha Deve Parabhaktir Tatave Katita Prakashante Mahatmana. It says that only to one who has implicit faith in the Lord and in the representative of the Lord, the spiritual master, will all the truths of the Vedas be revealed. It's not just an academic exercise. It's not just taking in facts and regurgitating for the tests, but it has to do, bottom line, with pleasing the spiritual master. Tadvidi pranipane paripashe vidakshantite ganinas tattvadarshinaha. Krishna says you will learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, pleasing him by rendering service, inquiring from him submissively. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Now, our title for today is that this material world is like a shopping mall. I remember my mother, when I visited my parents, I'd been away for 8 years. I left in 67. I didn't come back to America until 75. So I visited my parents a couple of times. And one time my mom and I were sitting in the kitchen and Dad had gone out to the supermarket. And Mom was telling me something about Dad. He said he only buys what's on the list. Dad was ex-military, and that might have had something to do with it. I don't know. He knew how to follow orders to the T. He knew how to follow orders exactly. So Mom would give him a shopping list, and I'm not sure that Dad would ever even add to it. I'm not sure that he ever even added any personal items to the list. But Mom would give him the list, and he would get exactly what was on the list, no more, no less. So she knew that the amount of money which was to be spent and the items which were to be returned to the pantry and to the refrigerator, she knew without a doubt that what she give him, that is what she would get. Similarly, we have to be as one pointed in this material world. This material world is like a shopping mall. Urdvam mulamadashakam ashadam chandamsiyakara. In the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the material world is compared to the upside down image of a banyan tree. And where do we find a tree upside down? Anybody know? You want to put it in the comments here? Brent has already gotten a poem here. He said, some people are able to just ignore the donation table, pay your debts to your teacher to reach your potential. Yeah, we've already got the muse waxing strong here. Okay, what was my question now? I diverted myself. I diverted myself. Okay, one, let's see, a reflection. Yes, thank you, Natasha. Thank you for bringing this old mind back on track. Where do we find an upside down tree? It's a reflection of the tree on the water, and not just any tree, a banyan tree. There's a banyan tree in front of the county building in Provo. The banyan tree has actually a thin trunk, but as it spreads out horizontally, some of the branches go vertically. And this explains how some banyan trees can take up acres and acres of land. They're putting down vertical trunks to support the outstretching of the tree. So the banyan and the density of the branches is incredible. You can't really it's not like you can climb from one branch to another. It's so dense and it's like a jungle. So this material world is like an upside down banyan tree. There are 4 broad categories of endeavor: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Religiosity, sense gratification, economic development, and ultimate liberation. But all of the different nuances, all the different branches and sub-branches and categories and sub-categories make it mind-boggling. There are so many products. There are so many things after which one could hanker, things that one could covet in this material world. It's literally endless. It's literally endless. So you have to have your shopping list, and you have to keep to your shopping list. We come into this material world, just like my dad used to go to the supermarket. Now, he would have a list, so he didn't waste time. He didn't waste money. He didn't waste energy. And although there's a potential for distraction, potential for wasting energy, potential for spending too much money, a potential for coming back with things which you don't need, with non-essential things, you have to be like my father. Stick to the list. What did you come for? Don't dilly-dally. Don't look to the right, to the left. Don't open yourself up to, what is it called? Impulsive spending. If you go to the grocery store, you need to have a list and you need to stick to it. Similarly, the secret for success, coming as a spirit soul from the eternal kingdom of God, falling into this material world, the amount of time we're going to spend here is directly proportional to how successful we are in focusing on what it is we want to get out of this material world, of what it is we need to do in order to minimize our time in this world of birth, death, disease, and old age, and go back to home, back to God. You know from the 3rd canto of the story, Jai and Vijay were guards at the gates of Vaikuntha. 4 young, naked boys, looked about 6 years old, approached the gates and wanted to just breeze on through. But the 2 gatekeepers, who were in fact conscientiously doing their duty, took these 4 boys at face value, and they said, you can't go in here. Only great saints and sages and devotees can get the access of the Lord. So I'm sorry, but we're not going to let you in. Well, although their appearance belayed it, these were the 4 Kumaras. They were, in fact, great saints and sages. They were, in fact, such great saints and sages that when their father, Brahma, ordered them that when they would grow up to get married and produce children, they were so fixed, they themselves were so focused on getting out of the material world ASAP, And at the same time, they didn't want to disobey the orders of their father. Remember, we're talking about reciprocating with superiors and parents and teachers. So they didn't want to disobey their father. At the same time, they felt that their individual priority should be to minimize their attraction in this material world and focus on the Supreme Personality of God. What they did was very clever. By their yogic powers, they arrested their development. Lord Brahma had ordered them that when you get physically mature, get married and have children. They didn't want to disobey the orders of Brahma. And so, very cleverly, they, they never grew up. They were quite old. Sons of Lord Brahma, you can imagine, they were quite elderly, in fact, tens of thousands of years old. But they looked like kids 6 years old, and they went around naked. So Jai and Vijay weren't wrong in thinking they were ineligible to enter the spiritual world. But the Kumaras also weren't wrong in getting very upset because they were at the highest level of devotees, and they felt that these guards, these gatekeepers, these bouncers at the door should have been able to recognize them in spite of their infantile bodies. So there was a misunderstanding, as a result of which the Kumaras were very, very upset, and they cursed. They said, since you two gatekeepers don't seem to be able to have the power of discrimination, you don't seem to be able to discriminate between what is essential and what is non-essential, between who is qualified and who is unqualified. Therefore, we're going to curse you to go into the material world. And here's a parallel with Gajendra. Here's a parallel. In his past life, Gajendra was a king named Imdradumna, a devotee, 98% Krishna conscious. Into his palace one day came a sage named Agastya Muni. The king was engaged in his devotional service, and he didn't quite notice the sage right away. He didn't drop everything and go to offer the sage hospitality. It was a small fault in his part, but the sage immediately jumped to curse him to take birth as an elephant. He was unfairly cursed to go from a king to an elephant, a body which was dull and insensitive. Similarly, the gatekeepers were just doing their job. How are they supposed to know that these naked boys were some of the most venerated sages, the direct sons of Lord Brahma? They weren't really at fault. And yet the sages cursed them to take birth in the material world. Now, at this moment, Lord Vishnu shows up, and he says, Eto sarata gatim pradipadya sambridi sambari samara buyosha gashamapaya supo mayaiva nibatistadavitaruka. So there was this tension, this bad feeling between the four Kumaras and the gatekeepers. Each one felt they'd been wrong. And at the same time, the Kumaras felt like they'd maybe overstretched their power. They'd maybe overdone it, killed a canary with a cannonball. And they were feeling a little guilty. And why did we lose it so much? That's atypical of us. So the Lord appears, and he tells the Kumaras, the reason that you overreacted uncharacteristically is because this is my plan. The Lord said, I plan on descending to the material world. Yada yadahi dharmasha glani bhavati abhutanam. Whenever and wherever there's a decline in religious principles and a rise of irreligion, at that time I invent myself. So I foresee that in the very near future, I'm going to have to invent myself. In fact, I'm going to have to invent myself several times to counteract Ravan, to counteract Kamsa, to counteract Kumbhakarna, to counteract the Duryodhana and the Pandavas and so on and so forth, to counteract Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha and so on and so forth. And so the Lord said, and I need, if I'm going to descend, I need some opponents. I need some worthy challengers. And so it was by my prior arrangement that you overreacted and you cursed these two gatekeepers. So at this point, the Kumaras were a little bit mollified. They knew that it's not a good policy to go around cursing servants of the Lord, cursing devotees of the Lord. And so they were glad to hear that what they had done was by the superior arrangement of the Lord. And then the Lord turns to Jai and Vijay and he tells them, don't feel bad. Again, your lapse in discrimination was by my arrangement because I want you to precede me to the material world. Now, the Lord asks the two gatekeepers to make a choice. He tells them you can go to the material world for 7 births as devotees, or you can go to the material world for 3 births as demons. They chose the more abbreviated stay in the material world. They wanted to get back to the spiritual world as quickly as possible. So they chose, over and above taking 7 verses devotees, they chose to take 3 verses demons. And hence, Jai and Vijay took birth as Ravan and Kumbhakarna. They took birth as Dantavakra and Sisupal. And they also took birth as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. They took 1 extra birth to be part of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Can anyone guess who they took birth as in the Chaitanya Lila? That would be anybody? That would be Madai and Jagai. That would be Madai and Jagai. Okay. So it's important then to minimize the period of your stay in this material world. Just like you go into the grocery store, the longer you stay, the longer you loiter and linger, the more likely it is you are to forget what it is that you came for. Sometimes I've gone to Walmart Supercenter and I haven't made a list, or I've forgotten my list. It was in my pocket when I left, but I don't know what happened to it. And I'm standing there amongst all the shoppers and all the displays and the glitz and the glitter, the food and the apparel and the men's and the women's and the children's and the shoes and the auto goods and the sporting goods and the garden, the grocer. And I forgot what I came for. If I can't remember, the whole trip is going to be a waste. And what's likely to happen is forgetting the reason I came. I'm just going to pick stuff up whimsically, unsystematically, spend unnecessary money, and waste my time. So we don't, having come to this material world, we need to recognize why we came. We need to analyze it. We need to diagnose it, just like a doctor. Shreyam nishreyasam navakti nadatyano vanchito pishakta. This is a nice point, which Britiswara brings up in the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam. He says, Krishna is our best friend. That means he wants for us only those remedial medicines which are going to cure our material disease. He wants directly to address and to administer medical, so to speak, attention to the causes of our fall down to this material world. Krishna's not going to do anything that's likely to distract us or to prolong our stay in this material world. That's why sometimes when devotees get too attached to material possessions, the Lord, Yashaham Anugrahama Harishita Dhanashanahi, the Lord sometimes takes away the possessions of a devotee if that devotee has gotten too attached to them. It says, Madprapta Yesha Sharadira Shapta Duranti Tapara Tapagram. It says, although the Lord could award anything within the 3 worlds to the devotees, sometimes he does not do so because he knows that having material opulence and influence will sidetrack that particular devotee. And the Lord does not, as the responsible, conscientious physician who feels his job it is to cure us of the material disease and get us back home, back to Godhead, he'll sometimes take away potential causes. If your disease is caused by eating chocolate, for instance, the bona fide physician will proscribe chocolate from your diet. He will prohibit chocolate from your diet. He will not flatter you and tell you or mislead you into thinking that you can eat chocolate and get cured. You cannot. Similarly, you cannot pursue sense gratification and be successful in Krishna consciousness at the same time. You have to make your choice. Chanaka Pandit says, if you want sense gratification, then there's no point in making a show of pursuing transcendental knowledge. On the other hand, if you want transcendental knowledge, you have to give up sense gratification altogether. We'd like to have our cake and eat it too. We'd all like to do that. But we can't. There are categorical statements. Lord Jesus Christ said, you cannot serve mammon and you cannot serve God at the same time. Now, let me hasten to say, it's not that there isn't sense gratification in the devotional practice. There is sense gratification. It's of a higher order. It's unlimited. In one sense, if you want sense gratification, then do everything through Krishna. When you filter everything through Krishna, rather than just go to the fast food window and gulp something down or cram it into your mouth like an animal, go to the grocery store or have your garden. Take care in selecting the best quality fruits and vegetables. Bring them back, wash them, cut them up, cook them, offer them, and eat them. It's a whole wonderful opportunity for taking what is common and what occupies a significant part of our day. Every one of us needs fuel. We can't work without calories or fuels. So we have to eat. And ideally, eating should be preceded by shopping or growing vegetables or cooking, not just by pulling up to the fast food window at McDonald's or Wendy's and getting some processed, impersonal, assembly line food. Make it personal and take the opportunity of preparing, acquiring, cutting up, preparing, cooking, offering, and eating food as an opportunity for you and for your family to come together and make advancement in spiritual life. This is the practice of Krishna consciousness. So when you go shopping, it's important to have a list. It's important to prioritize, because if we don't take that precaution beforehand, before we go out, we'll be bewildered. We'll spend unnecessary time, unnecessary money, unnecessary energy. We'll come back with things which are not essential, which are not profitable. The Walmart Supercenter has so many aisles with so many displays, and so many categories of different products to purchase. Someone who's intelligent is someone who comes with a list. Similarly, in this material world, we should have a list. I want things only related to Krishna and nothing else. If it's going to directly awaken my Krishna consciousness, then that's what I want. And if it's something that has the potential to distract me, then I don't want that. I don't want to waste my time and energy. When Sutta Goswami arrived in the assembly of sages at Naimisharanya, Sutta Goswami had just been privy to the message of Sukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Pariksit. Went on for 7 days. It comprised 20,000 verses of Krishna Katha. So being pregnant with all that knowledge, Sutta appeared several hundreds of miles away to the sages at Naimisharanya, and they greet him with these words, Munya Sadyuprishtaham Bhavadbhiro Yat Krita Krishna Sambhata Yatmashu Prasidati. They immediately, right up front, they said, are you going to talk to us about Krishna? They wanted to know. They weren't making any bones about it. Are you going to talk? Before offering him a seat, before washing his hands, before saying beautiful words, before any preliminaries, they said, before we get into any of this, and we will do everything. We will do everything that's required. We will offer hospitality in the extreme. We will offer food and water and a comfortable place to sit and proper words of welcome. You will not find us lacking in any of these areas. But first, we want to know up front, are you going to talk to us about Krishna? Because that will make our life successful, and that will make others' lives successful. And only topics about Krishna are going to satisfy the soul. So we want to know, essentially, are you going to waste our time, or are you going to give us Burini Kamani Srota Vyatasa Jasanam Samudra Brui Badre Bhutanam Yatmashu Prasiddhate. The sages at Naimishranya were like bees. They weren't worried, concerned about the stem of the flower. They weren't concerned about the roots of the flower. They weren't concerned so much about the leaves of the flower, but they were single-mindedly focused on the pollen of the flower, which they could turn into honey. The sages at Naimishranya similarly were saying to Sudha Goswami, are you bringing pollen? Are you bringing nectar? Are you bringing the honey? Anya bilasita sunyam jnana kamani anavritam. This is the definition of pure, unalloyed Krishna consciousness. Kicking out all aspirations for knowledge and vairagya. These are separate endeavors. These are separate classifications. Those who prioritize knowledge are called jnanis. Those who prioritize detachment and austerities are called tapasis or tyagis. But those who are interested in devotional service bring the separate independent endeavors for renunciation of knowledge down to zero, knowing that in Krishna is included all knowledge and all detachment. There's no need to make a separate endeavor. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yogi Janayati Ashuganam Jnanam Chara Janayati Ashubhaigragyam. Knowledge and detachment are byproducts of worshiping Vasudeva, who is Bhagavati, the absolute truth, the creation, and more than the creation. No devotee has any interest in separately cultivating knowledge and detachment. It's not on his list. His list only has to do with those things which are going to escalate his bhakti and nothing else. Abhaishnavamodgaram putam hari shravanamaya sarpo chistam yatapada. Can anyone guess what this verse is? Sarpo chistam, there's alliteration there. The word sounds like the object to which it refers. Sarpo chistam. Hint, get it? Sarpo chistam. Even bhakti mixed with knowledge and detachment. The knowledge and detachment, so far as they are mixed into the recipe, they are unnecessary. They are considered like poison, like the poison of a snake mixed into the milk. Milk is beautiful. Milk is rich. Milk is the excess byproduct of the cow, which is meant for human consumption. When human beings, especially children, drink milk, they get good bones, they get good intelligence. The finer tissues within their brain are developed so they can understand the sublime subtleties of spiritual truths. So milk itself is a miracle food. Milk is liquid gold. And yet milk, when it's touched by the lips of the serpent, has poisonous effects. So one who is a devotee, swan-like, he dips his beak into a mixture of milk and water, and he learns how to extract the milk, leaving aside the water. Where there is a body of knowledge which is mixed or tainted by knowledge and detachment, the devotee knows how to extract the bhakti, knowing that there's no need to make a separate endeavor to pursue knowledge or to pursue detachment. Another similarity in this material world with grocery shopping is price comparison, isn't it? When you go to the store, you may have a list and you want to get, let's say you want to get pasta. Okay. So there may be many varieties of pasta, There's all kinds of different shapes and different noodles. Some of them have eggs in them. Some of them are made with white flour. Some of them are made with durum flour. Some of them are going for your money. You're going to get more value, more nutrition from certain types of pastas made by certain companies. So even though you have pasta in general on your list, the astute shopper is going to make the most of his purchasing power and get the maximum number of energy and calories back for the minimum expenditure of dollars is going to compare prices, is going to compare products. In which product, purchasing which is going to give me the most nourishment, the most benefit. Bhakti Panishnava Viraktanan Yatyachachi Shoshu Lekashu Tidesham Neshnatu Prachabanamani Tushti Pushti Supapariam Nashata. One's diet, the things that one does in life, not only the things that one eats, but the things that one does, what's on one's to-do list, what's on one's menu for the day. It should be deeply satisfying to the soul. You know that you're engaged profitably on the path of bhakti if you feel your hankering for material sense gratification to be diminishing to the point of nil. One gets such satisfaction from serving Krishna, from offering food to Krishna, from associating with Krishna's devotees, from hearing and remembering the pastimes of Krishna, that all other peripheral desires gradually come to zero. Just in the same way that someone who sat down to a beautiful, variegated, well-cooked, well-prepared, well-presented meal, every bite he takes, his hunger gets less. He may approach the meal with a ravenous appetite, may say, I'm starving, I gotta eat. But every bite he tastes of that nutritious, wholesome food, his hunger goes away, his vertigo goes away, his misery goes away, his disorientation goes away, to be replaced by strength, resoluteness, confidence, energy, focus, motivation. This is the symptom that one's eating a good meal, and this is also the symptom that one is profitably and rightly engaged in devotional service under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, in whose association your time is your greatest asset. Your time is your greatest. In each year, in this year, 2024, we'll have 8,760 hours to spend. So what is the best way to spend the hours, the minutes, and the seconds of this year, 2024? How can I spend my time in such a way as to maximize my Krishna consciousness and go back to home, back to God? Ayusho Shanoekopi Nalibdya Nakinchana Kacha Hanishtadotit. Janaka Pandit very wisely said, our greatest asset, our greatest currency is time. How do we know that? Because even if we had millions of golden coins, Swarna Koti, we couldn't turn the clock back one day. We couldn't turn the clock back even 1 hour. We can't turn the clock back even 1 minute. Time that's passed is gone. We can't bring it back, no matter how much wealth we have. Therefore, each and every moment, especially in this human form of life, is of inestimable value. So, in what pursuits, in what activities can I dedicate myself in the coming year of 2024 in such a way as I will get the greatest nourishment, the greatest benefit? And those are, of course, the pure activities of hearing, chanting, glorifying the Lord in the association of devotees, while taking prasadam periodically to keep your strength up. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So our time is up. We'll stop there. It's 8:15 today. Now I'm going to rush over here to the sidebar, excitedly to see some of these poetic offerings that have come up. Let's see. The first one is from Brent, who says some people are able to just ignore the donation table. Pay your debts to your teacher to reach your potential. Some people are able to just ignore the donation table, pay your debts to your teacher to reach your potential. Carmen, don't just be a reaper to your spiritual teacher. You won't be at ease if your teacher isn't pleased. Nice. Don't just be a reaper to your spiritual teacher. You won't be at ease if your teacher isn't pleased. Spot on. Back to Brent. Stick to the list. Don't insist in getting lost in Maya's mist. Do what you came for and nothing more. That's a really clever, a really well-nuanced couple of lines there. Stick to the list. Don't insist in getting lost in Maya's mist. Do what you came for and nothing more. That's really good. And now Natasha, and she says, as we traverse this earthly plane, the list our anchor in sunshine and rain. With Krishna's wisdom we sustain in adherence, liberation, the ultimate gain. Wow. Wow. I'll read that once more. As we traverse this earthly plane, the list our anchor in sunshine and rain. With Krishna's wisdom we sustain in adherence, liberation, the ultimate gain. Beautiful. Here's another one by Natasha. Just like in markets, bustling and loud, where distractions many like clouds enshroud, if we wander aimless in the crowd, our mission forgotten under life's shroud. I'm starting to tear up here. Just like in markets, bustling and loud, where distractions many like clouds enshroud, if we wander aimless in the crowd, our mission forgotten under life's shroud. Wow. Here's another one. Wow, the muses showed up front and center today. Carmen says, and Carmen has such a amazing vocabulary. I love the high tone that she sets in her wordsmithery. Life's endless paths distract and delay. The stores in life's mall will lead you astray. One should discriminate and see Maya's bait, then stick to the straight to reach heaven's gate. Gosh, I feel so humbled. Life's endless paths distract and delay. The stores in life's mall will lead you astray. One should discriminate and see Maya's bait, then stick to the straight to reach heaven's gate. Anjali weighs in here. Prioritize time invested in values over sense enjoyment, nourishment over quick fill. True, true. And one more from Carmen. The devotee can pull water from oil, milk from venom, the clean from the soil. I decided that, I don't want to just have these on Facebook and then disappear after 30 days. I'd like to sort of archive them. So if we decide to go back and expand on them a little bit and make songs out of them, that, who knows, they might be part of a children's book, or they might be performed live by one of you composers on the stage at Janmashtami or Diwali or Holi. Anyway, I just feel like we should archive all these gems. And so what I thought I would do is just paste them on the YouTube, in the YouTube channel. All these talks go onto YouTube. And there's a big place where you put comments. So I think I'll just try to preserve these, not knowing exactly what we're going to do with them, but not wanting to lose them. I'm going to paste them in the comment section to the YouTube channels, so we can have them and go back to them and amplify them or do whatever Krishna has in mind for us to do ultimately. Okay, well, now we go to Rob. the most long-standing poet amongst us. Can you share what you have this morning, Rob?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. All right. For Krishna, have a single mind. For everything else, be blind. Service to the teacher should not be a show, but an attempt to pay back what you owe.
Yes. Nice.
The teacher's pleasure is the student's treasure.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Why? Well, that's really just, what is that, like 5 words? And it really goes right to the point. Good job.
It's not worth the risk to stray from the list.
Another short and sweet one.
Don't dilly-dally in Maya's dark alley.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
You risk losing your way when you unnecessarily stay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You can please any sense with Krishna's remnants.
Yep. Yep.
When you enter Maya's store, better to get less than more. And be as focused as the bees. Look only for the flower, not the stem or leaves.
Wow. Man. So wonderful. Yeah, I'm gonna post all these in the YouTube under the comment section, because we really need to hold on to these little gems. So it's 22 past 8. We're all going to go about our various Krishna conscious activities throughout the day, which will be punctuated with the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare.